Naqshbandi, also written Nakşibendi, an-Naqshbandiyyah, Naqshibandi, or Nakshibendi, is a major Sunni spiritual order of Sufism. It traces its spiritual lineage to the Islamic prophet Muhammad, through Abu Bakr, the first Caliph and Muhammad's companion. Some Naqshbandi masters trace the lineage through Ali, his son-in-law and the fourth Caliph, in keeping with most other Sufis. Spiritual lineage criteria. In Sufism, as in any serious Islamic discipline such as jurisprudence, Quranic recital, and hadith, a disciple must have a master, a sheikh, from whom to take the knowledge, one who has himself taken it from a master, and so on, in a continuous chain of masters back to Muhammad. According to Carl W. Ernst, within the Sufi tradition, the formation of the orders did not immediately produce lineages of master and disciple. There are few examples before the 11th century of complete lineages going back to the Prophet Muhammad, yet the symbolic importance of these lineages was immense. They provided a channel to divine authority through master-disciple chains. It was through such chains of masters and disciples that spiritual power and blessings were transmitted to both general and special devotees. This means that a Sufi master has met and taken the way from a master, and that during his lifetime he has explicitly and verifiably invested the disciple, whether in writing or in front of a number of witnesses, as a fully authorized master of the spiritual path to succeeding generations of disciples. Such spiritual transmission from an unbroken line of masters is one criterion that distinguishes a true or connected Sufi path from an inauthentic or dissevered path. The leader of a dissevered path may claim to be a Sufi master on the basis of an authorization given by a master in private or other unverifiable circumstance, or by a figure already passed from this world, such as one of the righteous persona Muhammad, or in a dream, or so on. These practices only warm the heart, but none meet Sufism's condition that a Sufi master must have a clear authorization connecting him with Muhammad, one that is verified by others than himself. Without such publicly verifiable authorizations, the Sufi path would be compromised by the whims of the people. The chain of spiritual transmission is not tied to a country, family, or political appointment, but is a direct heart-to-heart transmission, at or after the time of death or burial. It is also considered that the appointed sheikhs will be in some communication with past sheikhs. All are joined by the common spiritual allegiance to the master of spiritual lineages, Muhammad. Spreading of the order. The Naqshbandi order owes many insights to Yusuf Hamdani and Abdul Khalik Gajadwani in the 12th century, the latter of whom is regarded as the organizer of the practices and is responsible for placing stress upon the purely silent invocation. It was later associated with Baha'u'ddin Naqshband Bukhari in the 14th century, hence the name of the order. The name can be interpreted as engraver, pattern maker, reformer of patterns, image maker, or related to the image maker. The way is sometimes referred to as the sublime Sufi path and the way of the golden chain. The path's name has changed over the years, referring to Abu Bakr as Siddiq. It was originally called as Siddiqiyya between the time of Bayazid al-Bistami and Abdul Khalik al-Gushdwani, a Tafa'iyya from the time of Abdul Khalik al-Gushdwani to Shah Naqshband, the Khwajagan or Hodja from the time of Shah Naqshband and on an-Naqshbandiyyah. Afterwards, a branch, a sub-order name was added, from Ubaidullah Ara to Imam Rabbani. The way was called Naqshbandiyyah from Imam Rabbani to Shamsuddin Mazhar, Naqshbandiyyah Mujaddadiyya from Shamsuddin Mazhar to Maulana Khalid al-Baghdadi, Naqshbandiyyah Mazhariyya from Maulana Khalid onwards, Naqshbandiyyah Khalidiyya, and so on. The way, a school connected to the late Sheikh Sultan al-Awliya Maulana Sheikh Nazim, who lived in northern Cyprus, is undoubtedly the most active of all Naqshbandi orders, with followers in almost every corner of the world. It is referred to as the Naqshbandi Haqqani way. According to some estimates, there were over 60 million disciples and centers in almost every country of the world. It also had the largest internet presence. There were disciples in almost all of Europe, including the United Kingdom, Germany, and France, and in the United States of America, the Middle East, Africa, India, China, Japan, Australia, New Zealand, Latin America, etc. It was most active in Indonesia, Malaysia, Sri Lanka, Pakistan and Brunei. The Sultan of Brunei and the Prince of Malaysia, Raja Ashman Shah, were disciples of this order. India. The Naqshbandiyyah order became an influential factor in Indo-Muslim life, and for 2 centuries it was the principal spiritual order in India. Baki Billah Berang is credited for bringing the order to India during the end of the 16th century. He was born in Kabul and brought up and educated in Kabul and Samarkand, where he came in contact with the Naqshbandiyyah order through Hazrat Khawajaram Kangi. When he came to India, he tried to spread his knowledge about the order, but died 3 years later. Among his disciples were Shaykh Ahmad Sirhindi and Shaykh Abdul Haq of Delhi. After his death, his student, Shaykh Ahmad, primarily took over. Shaykh Ahmad was born in 1561 and his father Makdum Abdul Ahad was from a high Sufi order. He completed his religious and secular studies at the age of 17. Later he became known as Mujaddadi al-Faitani. It was through him that the order gained popularity within a short period of time. Shaykh Ahmad broke away from earlier mystic traditions and propounded his theory of the unity of the phenomenal world. In particular, he spoke out against innovations introduced by Sufis. For instance, he opposed Emperor Akbar's views on Hindu and Muslim marriages. He stated, Muslims should follow the religion, and non-Muslims the ways, as the Quran enjoins, for you yours and for me my religion. Also, he did not believe in keeping the state and ruler separate and worked hard to change the outlook of the ruling class. After his death, his work was continued by his sons and descendants. In the 18th century, Shah Wali Allah played an important role in the religious sciences, particularly the Hadith, and translated the Quran into Persian. He also looked at a fresh interpretation of Islamic teachings in the light of the new issues. Furthermore, he played a significant role in the political developments of the period. During the 19th century, 2 Naqshbandiyyah saints made significant contributions to the chain by restating some of its basic ideological postures. Syria and Palestine. The Naqshbandiyyah was introduced into Syria at the end of the 17th century by Murad Ali al-Bukhari, who was initiated in India. Later, he established himself in Damascus, but traveled throughout Arabia. His branch became known as the Muradiyya. After his death in 1720, his descendants formed the Muradi family of scholars and sheikhs who continued to head the Muradiyya. In 1820 and onward, Khalid Shirazuri rose as the prominent Naqshbandi leader in the Ottoman world. After the death of Khalid in 1827, his order became known as the Khalidiyya, which continued to spread for at least 2 decades. In Syria and Lebanon, the leaders of every active Naqshbandiyyah group acknowledged its spiritual lineage, which had retained the original Naqshbandiyyah way. Later a strife between Khalid's caliphs led to disruption of the order, causing it to divide. When political leader Musa Bakr died in 1973, the pre-Mujaddidi line of the Naqshbandiyyah in Greater Syria came to an end. One of the only branches to have survived till recently is the one based in the Kanqah al-Uzbekiyya in Jerusalem. The number of its members had increased at the end of the 19th century. The Ahmadiyya branch, which practices silent and vocal invocation, is still present in Lebanon and is named after Caliph Ahmadi. We shall speak about the great Grand Sheikh Abdullah Faizi ad-Daghestani, and quote a small passage from his biography written by Sheikh Hisham Kabani. It was in Damascus, Syria, that Grand Sheikh Abdullah Faizi ad-Daghestani preached from, and also died. His blessed tomb is to be found in Damascus. It is estimated that a massive crowd of about 400,000 people attended his funeral. Later the Naqshbandi Haqqani Sufi order was led by his successor Nazim al-Haqqani and might still be very active in Syria, Azerbaijan and Dagestan. Russian Naqshbandi silsila beginning from Muhammad is passed in chain till Ismail Kurdamari. After Ismail Kurdamari the chain has split in two as he had two Marzans, i.e. Muhammad Saleh Shirwani and Qas Muhammad Shirwani. From Qas Muhammad Shirwani the chain goes to Muhammad Yaraghi ad-Daghestani, and from him to Jamaluddin al-Gumuchi ad-Daghestani, who had three Marzans, i.e. Mamadi Bir Arochi ad-Daghestani, Imam Shamal ad-Daghestani, and Abdurrahman Abu Ahmad as-Safari ad-Daghestani. According to Shuaib Effendi Bagwani ad-Daghestani, Abdurrahman as-Safari had two Marzans, i.e. Muhammad Haji Obodi ad-Daghestani and Ilyas Sudakari ad-Daghestani. Both had no Marzans, and thus the split chain coming from Qas Muhammad Shirwani has ended here. However, there were and still are many people including Sharafuddin ad-Daghestani, Abdullah Faiz ad-Daghestani and others claiming that they somehow received Naqshbandi permission in the dream, or by special spiritual experience, etc. All these claims and questionable permissions are not recognized and rejected in Dagestan, as permission cannot be given by individuals who themselves had no permission in dreams of by Rafani or without witnesses. There are strict requirements as to who gives the permission, how it is given and received. The chain from Muhammad Saleh Shirwani, on the other hand, is continuous and goes all the way to Mahmud Effendi, Hassan Hilmi Effendi and the rest of the Dagestani Marzans. Egypt. During the middle of the 19th century, Egypt was inhabited and controlled by Naqshbandis. A major Naqshbandi Kanqah was constructed in 1851 by Abbas I, who did this as a favor to Naqshbandi Sheikh Ahmad Ashik. Ahmad Ashik headed the order till his death in 1883. Ahmad Ashik was a practicer of the Diyyah branch of the Khalidiyya. In 1876, Sheikh Judah Ibrahim amended the original Diyyah, which became known as Al-Judiyya, and gained a following in Al-Sharqiyya province in the eastern Nile Delta. During the last 2 decades of the 19th century, 2 other versions of Naqshbandiyyah spread in Egypt. One of these was introduced by a Sudanese, Al-Sharif Ishmi al-Sinari. Al-Sinari had been initiated into the Khalidiyya and Mujaddidiyya by various sheikhs during his time in Mecca and Medina. Initially, he tried to obtain a following in Cairo but was not able to, therefore he resorted going to Sudan. It is from that the order spread into Upper Egypt from 1870 onward under Musa Mu'awwad, who was al-Sinari's successor. Muhammad al-Laythi, son of al-Sinari, was the successor after Mu'awwad's death. The Judiyya and the Khalidiyya branches spread in the last decades of the 19th century and continued to grow and are still active today. Khalidiyya of Muhammad Amin al-Kurdi is headed by his son Najmuddin. The Judea split into three main branches, one led by the founder's son Isa, another led by Aliwa Atiyya in Cairo, and another led by Judah Muhammad Abul Yazid al-Hadi in Tanta. Unfortunately, none of the early orders survived far into the 20th century. The longest living group of Kankar-based Naqshbandis lived in the Kankar of Sheikh Ahmad Arshi, which closed in 1954. This is when all the Kankars in Egypt were closed and the Awqaf supporting these establishments were taken over by the Ministry of Awqaf. The buildings were either assigned a different function or demolished as part of urban renovation programs. China Malaichi brought the Naqshbandi order to China, creating the Kufia Wasi Sufi Menwan. Maming Shin also brought the Naqshbandi order, creating the Jarir Menwan. These two Menwan were rivals, and fought against each other, which led to the 1781 Jarir Rebellion, Dungan Revolt, and Dungan Revolt. Some Chinese Muslim generals of the Makhlik belonged to Naqshbandi Sufi Menwan, including Marzana and Ma'anliang of the Kufia Naqshbandi Menwan. Ma Shawu and Ma Yuanshang were other prominent leaders from the Jarir Naqshbandi Menwan. Many disciples of the Naqshbandi Haqqani Sufi order remain in China today. Prominent sheikhs: Bahauddin Naqshband Bukhari. Bahauddin Naqshband Bukhari was the founder of the Sufi Naqshbandi order. He was born in the village of Qasri Hinduvan near Bukhara. He uplifted the hearts of humanity, causing them to soar in the sky of spirituality. He made kings to stand at his door. He spread his guidance from north to south and from east to west. He left no one without heavenly support, even the wild animals in jungles. He is the greatest God, arch-intercessor, the Sultan of saints. The necklaces of all the spiritual pearls that were bestowed on this world by the Divine Presence. By the light of his guidance, Allah caused the good to be the best and transformed evil into goodness. Ahmad Sirhindi. Sheikh Ahmad al-Faruqi al-Sirhindi was considered a mujaddid and a leading Naqshbandi sheikh from India. He was from an Ashraf family claiming descent from Caliph Umar. He received most of his early education from his father, Sheikh Abdul Ahad, and memorized the Quran. He was trained in all Sufi orders by the age of 17 and was given permission to initiate and train followers in the Naqshbandi order. Practices. Criteria of a sheikh. The following would always apply to genuine Sufi Naqshbandi teachers or sheikhs. They comply with the law. They must be knowers. There can be no Sufism without knowledge. Spiritual allegiance is openly and regularly given to the leader of the order, not the local teacher or sheikh. They accept interaction with other disciples of the order. They do not accept personal certification of dead persons, or in dreams, or through special spiritual experience. There are exceptions to this rule according to the UAZ concept of transmission, where someone who lived before can train and transmit knowledge to someone who came later. They only accept written personal certification in the presence of witnesses. 11 Principal Teachings. Known as the 11 Naqshbandi Principles, the first 8 were formulated by Abdul Khaliq Gajadwani, and the last 3 were added by Bahauddin Naqshband Bukhari. Remembrance, always orally and mentally repeating the dhikr. Restraint, engaging in the heart repetition of the al-kalimat at-tayyibah phrase La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. Watchfulness, being conscientious over wandering thoughts while repeating al-kalimat at-tayyibah. recollection, concentration upon the divine presence in a condition of dark, foretaste, intuitive anticipation of perceptiveness, not using external aids, awareness while breathing, controlling one's breathing by not exhaling or inhaling in the forgetfulness of the divine, journeying in one's homeland, an internal journey that moves the person from having blameworthy to praiseworthy properties. This is also referred to as the vision, a revelation of the hidden side of the Shahada. Watching one's step. Do not be distracted from purpose of the ultimate journey. Solitude in a crowd. Although journey is outwardly in this world, it is inwardly with God. Temporal pause, keeping account of how one spends his or her time. If time is spent rightfully, give thanks, and time is spent incorrectly, ask for forgiveness. Numerical pause, checking that the dhikr has been repeated in odd numbers. Heart pause, forming a mental picture of one's heart with the name of God engraved to emphasize that the heart has no consciousness, a goal other than God. Types of concentration. Muraqabah is known as spiritual communion. In this practice one tries to unveil the mystery of life by losing oneself in it. One imagines his heart beats calling out the name of the Almighty. It is highly believed that it is true that our heart calls out for Allah with every beat, but it's our hearts which are draped by sins, and so the heartbeat is heard as dhak and not Allah. Muraqabah is done by sitting in a lonely place with eyes closed and maintaining a calm position, imagining your exterior eyes closed and interior eyes open, and imagine your heart calling out for Allah. Try to hear the word Allah in each and every heartbeat. Tawajjuh is derived from waj and means confrontation. It is used in relation to the act of facing the point of adoration during ritual prayer. Knowing the direction of adoration is incumbent on the Sufi master, who is the gateway to God. To the uninformed, the sheikh is often made the point of adoration. The goal is that the worshipper cleanses his clouded heart so that it is pure enough that God may be reflected in it. Subtle substances. The 7 substances of Ala al-Dawla were used by the Kubrawi school of Sufism, while others used 6 known as the Latafisita, to aid in meditation and invocation. They were linked to a part of the body, a prophet, and a color. The Naqshbandi school linked them to the following subtle energy centers of the body. The Qalb is located 2 fingers below the left breast and its color is red. The Ru is located 2 fingers below the right breast and its color is white. The Nafs is beneath the navel and its color is yellow. The Sa is at the center of the breast with the color green. The Kafi is above the eyebrow with the color blue. The Akhfa is at the top of the brain and its color is black. According to Sheikh Ahmed Sir Hindi, humans are made of 10 lata'if components of creation. 5 of them pertain to Alami Amra and the remaining 5 pertain to Alami Khalq. The 5 lata'if of Alami Amra, Qalb, Ru, Sir, Kafi and Akhfa. The 5 lata'if of Alami Khalq are Nafs, soil, water, air and fire. The last 4 are collectively called Lataf Qalbiyya, referring to the physical human body, also referred to as Sultan al-Azkar in many Sufi orders. Some Naqshbandis correlate them as follows.